What's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is another chance encounter.
Hey, what's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg. I'm a commercial real estate guy. I'm from the internet. We're seeing more properties like this being built in front of a house. It's going to be torn down soon. I understand that there are power lines that are getting kind of close. What's up again? This is Dan Fredenberg, and that there is a commercial real estate building.
I'm joined today with Trevor Oldham. How you doing today, Trevor?
I'm doing awesome, Dan. Excited to chat.
Yeah, this is really great, and I'm really excited today because my very favorite audience member is here today. And why is my favorite audience member here today? It's because I interview commercial syndicators, investors, buyers, sellers, all that kind of stuff, because this is a chance encounter. Now, why do I do that? Well, a big part of it is compliance. You have to know if there's any overlap between you and the other professionals in your circle, find out all that kind of stuff, and you need to develop a substantive relationship if you're going to do any 506B deals. So that's why I have everybody on today. But before we get too excited about all that, Trevor, do you want to introduce yourself to the audience real quick?
Yeah, most certainly, Dan. Appreciate you having me on the show and give you a little bit of context for everyone in the audience. For the past 5 years, I've been running a company called Podcasting You, where we exclusively work with real estate investors to help brand themselves by placing them on podcasts to be podcast guests.
All right, beautiful. And on that subject, the next thing I want to mention is, but wait, check your 8, and it's actually the audience is 5. Can you see if the audience? Can you look in your camera, see if they have the red button or the gray subscribe button? Because they really it cause it's strange. Just kidding. Let's go through the motivations here. I found there are 5 distinct motivations among commercial investors that really make them distinct, and so I go through them in each one of these episodes. The first motivation I found some people have for making their next commercial acquisition is they've already got a nice portfolio, but they're trying to preserve their purchasing power. So that means they use the cash flow that comes from their portfolio to make ends meet. But when inflation or an asset class, ends up crashing, they're going to need to make new acquisitions to make ends meet. But that's not what I'm up to. What I'm up to is trading time directly for wealth. And that's because I have a background in tech. I worked for web.com, and then I opened up my CRM agency. But one problem you'll run into by getting a salary or wage is you're paying more in income tax than anybody else. So it hit me as like, how do I pivot to earn deployed equity as part of what I do? So that's what I'm up to. But some people, especially the young beginners, I find they tend to want to fast track retirement. And what that really means, though, for everybody is they want to take control of their own schedule. So maybe they want to work fewer months per year or fewer weeks per month or something like that. But that's not really me either. But the main thing that jumps out is that's people who want to, shift down and take it easy. Whereas the last two, they'll never shift down and take it easy. Like the ambitious ones who want to buy their entire hometown, they're in it for that generational wealth to make sure that their great grandchildren never have to hold a day job. So they're great because they're going to keep hustling into their 90s. Just like the last group, helping people who need it. Those are the ones who maybe it's not even people. They've picked a sector of society or animals or the environment or something, and they've realized to make a really big impact, you have to have some substantial financial backing in what you're up to. So, Trevor, of those 5 different motivations, which ones jump out at you? What combination of them really describes you best?
Yeah, I would probably say, probably fast track retirement. That's the biggest thing for me. And it's not so much that I want to retire; it's that I want to have the option whether or not I want to keep running my company. Forever. Like let's say hypothetically speaking, 25 years from now, do I necessarily want to keep running this company, or do I have a family at that time and I want to work 10 hours per week? So that's really what I'm looking to, especially when it comes to real estate, is basically giving myself that option whether or not I want to keep working, because I think I'll always want to work, but I don't necessarily if I want to continue to put in 40, 50 hours a week what I'm doing right now.
That makes lots of sense. And so my next question, this is probably a little bit of a tougher one because it's a little bit on the weird side. It's the tolerance for risk assessment. And the question is, it's a fill in the blank question. There are many popular investment asset classes, but I think blank is too risky. That doesn't have to be real estate. Anything you think is too risky of an investment, what do you think fills in that blank best for you?
Yeah, for me, it would probably be crypto. Just given the volatility of it, and not to say that it can't be not to say I don't think it I don't know enough about it to say whether or not it's going to be a good or not
Hmm.
investment. I can say that I have invested a little bit of my net worth in it, and got to ride, got to ride the highs, got to ride the lows, where I feel like, you look at the stock market, I mean, there's a certain degree of risk, and same thing with real estate, but there's definitely not as much volatility as it is in the crypto space.
Right, exactly. That makes lots of sense. So let's get to the commercial real estate side. Now, one of the big motivations for me putting out this podcast is to make sure that you, yes, you in the audience, can effectively communicate on the subject of commercial real estate. And what's that all about? Well, I use the dandoesdeals.com commercial roll die to go through the 6 different main functions of the different teammates on a GP deal, a GP team, a commercial deal. And if you want your copy of this die so you can print it out and practice with your friends and family, all that kind of stuff, go to dandoesdeals.com and it's totally free. I don't even ask for your email address, which is a really, really bad idea from a marketing perspective. But I want to make sure that you can pull this stuff off. And I go through every single one of these faces in all of these different episodes so that you know how my guest fits into these deals. So let's first talk about the repositioner. Repositioner looks at a bunch of different deals. They do a bunch of paperwork. They're doing the underwriting, is a fancy word to mean the math. So they're figuring out, is the seller actually telling the truth? Is this property actually making the amount of money that they claim it is? And then they're saying, how can I reposition it? In other words, what changes can I make to make it so that I have more upside? Now, the first place they're going to look probably is to the financiers. If you have more advantageous lending from your banks and whatnot, then that's some baked in upside right there. But let's assume that that's not available to a repositioner. The first place they're going to look then is going to be operations. Stop those Benjamins from going down the toilet. But on top of unclogging toilets and collecting rents and mowing lawns and all that kind of stuff, there's a lot more to operations than you'd think. One of my fortes is marketing, and where that comes out in a GP team is you have to keep the vacancy rate super duper low. Now, I also have all the programming and digital stuff for other efficient things, but that's also operations. But operations, they're probably not going to be enough for you to really find sufficient upside. So the repositioner will often get a contractor team involved. And what they're up to, they do a value add or the renovations. And the whole idea is you'll get the upside from a new tenant being happy to pay more for a nicer unit than the previous one. But if you're like me and you're from the internet, then the repositioner is going to have the problem of needing a local. You need boots on the ground, somebody who can be there in an hour or two, whereas I'd be still stuck at an airport. So that's not going to be me. But when the repositioner has the deal in hand and the team all figured out, they're going to be turning around to the financier and saying, hey, I got this property is worth tens of millions of dollars. Do you happen to have, say, tens of millions of dollars that you can lend me? And the financier is going to say, hang on, there's somebody who you haven't mentioned, which is dun, 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 the sponsor KP. What's that all about? Well, some people get a great idea saying, hey, I got some wealthy friends. Let's all pile some money together and take over an apartment complex. But if you do it the smart way, which is where you get a commercial loan, you're going to need a sponsor KP who already owns a similar asset, or else you just won't be eligible. But on top of that, you also need a certain amount of liquidity. And then through the ownership team, you have to have a balance sheet of at least the amount of the loan. But if you have all those pieces, you've got yourself a commercial real estate deal. So, Trevor, I know that everybody has to be somewhat of a repositioner. Everybody has to have some investor relationships with some financier sides. But where do you see yourself fitting in, contributing to your next deal?
Yeah, I would probably say, looking at the next deal, probably the underwriting part of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that just fascinates me, looking at deals, taking a look at the numbers, having the numbers tell a story. And that's just something that's, at the end of the day, numbers don't lie. They're gonna either the deal work or it's not gonna work. And then I find, part of the financier taking a look at that and what they have going on, seeing like, what are the different loan options that we could do, to potentially make this deal work. There's so many resources at your disposal. Not to say that every deal will work, but there's definitely some levers you can pull to see, if you could make a deal work. So I definitely find that's something that's definitely, interesting to me. Especially when you find a deal that does work and the numbers work, and you stress test it, and everything is, barring, the world blowing up, the
Mhm.
numbers are going to look good, and you're going to make some money on it.
All right, beautiful. So then the next question then it has to do with the buy box. And when investors are talking about an ideal property or a buy box, they're really asking about three main things. First one's geography. Where is it? Okay. So which states, which counties, possibly even which neighborhood, that's going to matter for sure. Second one's going to be size. Okay. We're talking about multifamily here. Multifamily size is dictated by the unit count. Okay. There are some forms of commercial real estate that go off of square footage, but in general, it's the unit count is going to decide how big the deal is. And the third one, they have one word, it's class, and it has two different meanings, which is something I hate, but what can you do? The first meaning of the word class has to do with the condition of the building. So is it old or is it up to date? Is it bare bones or is it lavish? Okay, that's what the first meaning of class is. Now, the second one has to do with the area that the property is located in. So how are the school districts? What's the crime rate like? And both of those two definitions of class use the same rating system even, and it's just like grade school. It'll be like A plus, A minus, B plus, and so on. So Trevor, as far as properties that you're more excited by, what's easier to say yes to and more difficult to say no to?
Yeah, I would say taking a look at properties. Typically for me right now, an A class is something that I'm more easily, you're looking at, newer built, just a lot nicer.
Mhm.
The properties I have a hard time saying yes to are going to be, lower end class C, God forbid you even get into class D.
Mhm.
But, properties, I've come across properties that are 40% or 50 to 60% vacancy. That's not the type of property that I would want to take a look at. That just seems like a lot of headache to deal with that property. And not to say that there isn't money to be made there, but I'd rather get a nice class A property and a good location, good geography and an up and coming market. I was taking a look at a deal not that long ago in Cleveland. Cleveland's sort of another up and coming market, a nice class A property, where you might not get a huge return, but something that's stable, something that's nice, and something that I would want to live in. Where some of these properties, it's going to take a lot of renovation work, and for me, that seems like too risky.
And I missed the unit count of what's ideal for you.
Yeah, typically when I'm looking at units, usually about 75 or over,
Gotcha.
something that makes it worthwhile. And the reason I say that is, I sort of look at it as like a single family scenario where, if someone's managing, say, 50, single family homes, they might not need any property management, not to say that they wouldn't hire it out, but like what's that number where, you're gonna have to bring in a property management team, and that's sort of like the type of property that I want. And from talking to other investors, it's about that 75 mark. Once they hit that, they can't do it all themselves and they bring in that property management team.
I love it. And one of my favorite things about commercial real estate is that because we have these different roles and everybody has their own unique skill sets, we're all better suited to help some people more than others. And me, in general, it's the sponsors KPs that I'm looking for. And that's just because of my marketing and digital background and everything related to that. But, and Trevor, I don't know if you have any 506B deals going on, but if you do, don't entice investors. So if you have a donut or something on your table, don't wave it in front of the camera. You'd be in big trouble. But jokes aside, yeah, so don't entice investors. I think it's okay to say beginners or whatever, but who are you on the lookout for? Who can you disproportionately help?
Yeah, I would probably say it is investors, that potentially have a 506C, 506B deal, and helping them just get a little bit more eyeballs on what they're doing. Obviously, my specialty is in the podcasting space and helping them guest on podcasts. And obviously, if you're looking to raise additional capital for a 506B deal and you want to go out there and you want to market yourself on these podcasts, how can you do it strategically where you make sure, you're not necessarily talking about the deal, you're not promoting the deal in any way, but how can you position yourself as an expert within real estate to someone say, hey, this guy company seems really good. Let me go on his website and book a free 15-minute call with him to learn more about his investment opportunities. And then you start to build out that relationship where conversely, if someone has that 506C, it's a little bit easier for them to promote. So typically anyone that's, raising capital or has a fund or just wants to, get more eyeballs on their brand, that's sort of like our bread and butter.
All right, beautiful. And we met through some meetups. LinkedIn is a great way to reach me because I got the distinct name. But how about you? What's the best way to reach out to you, Trevor?
Yeah, I would definitely say LinkedIn as well. Definitely the social media I'm most active on, and they can just find me by my username, which is going to be Trevor J Oldham on there.
All right, beautiful. And then the last thing I have, it's actually not for you, it's for you in the audience. It's a public awareness thing. Some people are experiencing problems with searing pains in their eyeballs and like migraines and stuff. And it's usually because there's this big, ugly red button under my hand down here. It says subscribe on it. And you really should click on it to save yourself that horrible, painful anguish. And it doesn't cost you anything. And it does mean that YouTube will start to pay for these videos instead of me. So that's why I really want you to do it. But it doesn't cost you anything. I don't even think it asks for your email. All it does is it means my videos might show up on your list of suggestions. But you can go ahead and ignore those suggestions because I just appreciate the fact you spent this time with me. Just like Trevor, I appreciate you spending the time with me and getting to know you a little bit better.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Make sure you 506B me. Any syndicators, make sure you 506B me.
Hi.
Oh, hey, yeah, here's my code. You got your QR code scanner? Okay, yeah, oh yeah, just hold it right in the square there. Okay, cool. And now you hit open in browser.
Okay.
Okay, are you already logged into 506B me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so there's my video. So now I'm already on your watch list. So when you get back to your hotel, you can find out what my core competencies are and my level of sophistication. Sound good?
Yeah.
I love your hat. Real estate's a scam. That's really funny.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you.
You too.
506B me, everybody.